There are moments in history when silence becomes the loudest act of defiance. Moments when a single, unarmed man faces not the enemy across the field, but corruption within his own ranks. It was during the final months of a drawn-out border campaign. The soldiers of the 19th Iron Division had grown weary, their faces caked in dust, their hearts running on orders rather than conviction. Their captain, Captain Ralston, was a man both feared and admired, a decorated officer whose medals shone brighter than his conscience. He commanded with iron pride, his word law, his gaze unchallenged.
Among his ranks stood a young recruit named Elias Ward, quiet, disciplined, invisible to most. He had joined not for glory, but for principle. In every drill, every inspection, Elias moved with precision. But beneath his calm exterior was a mind that measured men not by rank, but by integrity. One morning, during a routine field inspection, Captain Ralston gave an order that would expose the core of his deceit. He demanded that Elias falsify the unit's combat reports to make it appear that certain failed maneuvers were instead heroic victories.
Elias looked up, his voice steady. "Sir, those men died in retreat. Writing otherwise dishonors them." The captain's eyes narrowed. The air tightened. Around them, the company stood frozen. No one dared breathe. And in that silent standoff, a storm began to gather that would echo through the ranks for years to come.
Captain Ralston's temper snapped like a blade under pressure. He stepped closer, his boots crushing the dry soil between them. "You'll do as ordered, Recruit Ward," he hissed. "You don't question command, you obey." But Elias didn't move. His silence was a wall the captain couldn't climb. Ralston's gloved hand struck the air, aimed squarely at the recruit's cheek. It never landed. Elias caught his wrist mid-swing, eyes unflinching, posture unshaken. The entire line of soldiers watched, speechless, as the captain's arm trembled in the grip of the youngest man in his unit. For a single heartbeat, time froze. The sound of the desert wind filled the void where authority had just shattered. Then Elias released him, slowly, deliberately, and saluted. "Sir," he said quietly, "with respect, leadership commands loyalty, not lies." The captain said nothing. His hand hung limp, his face ashen, and the entire division stood in stunned, unbroken silence. The report reached headquarters by sunset. Witness statements, whispers, and quiet astonishment traveled faster than any messenger. Some expected Elias to be court-martialed before dawn. Others expected far worse. But the next morning, it was Captain Ralston who was summoned. In the command tent, under the flag of the regiment, Colonel Whitlock read the rewritten reports, the ones Elias had refused to forge. "You claim this recruit disobeyed you," the colonel said slowly. "Yet the truth he preserved matches the intelligence we received from recon, which means," he paused, fixing Ralston with a hard stare, "you ordered false reports." Ralston's lips parted, but no words came. The silence that followed was heavier than any verdict. The colonel turned to Elias. "Why did you refuse the order?" Elias replied simply, "Because a uniform loses its honor when truth is abandoned. I'd rather be punished than proud in deceit." The colonel nodded once. "Then you understand command better than some who hold it." By dusk, Ralston was stripped of his position and sent to headquarters for inquiry. No one saw him again in the field. That night, as the men gathered around their fires, they spoke not of drills or medals, but of what they had witnessed. The youngest recruit had faced the highest authority and won, not with force, but with dignity. And when the colonel addressed the company the next day, he ended with a line that became legend. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let truth kneel before power."
Years passed, the war ended. Names faded into archives, medals rusted, and the 19th Iron Division was disbanded. But among those who had served, one story never dimmed. The day a recruit named Elias Ward silenced his captain with nothing but integrity. In military academies, officers would repeat his name in lectures on ethics and command. In quiet barracks, older veterans told the tale to new soldiers, not as myth, but as memory. Some said Captain Ralston lived out his days in quiet shame, teaching administration far from the front lines. Others said he requested Elias's transfer file before retiring, a final act of acknowledgement for the man who had held him accountable. Elias never sought rank or fame. When asked years later what gave him the strength to defy an officer, he answered with a calm voice that carried more weight than any weapon. Power is not proven by obedience. It's tested by how one faces the truth. His words became engraved in the division's unofficial creed. And so, through time, the story endured, not as rebellion, but as a reminder that integrity, even in silence, can shake the foundations of deceit. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories from states of history.